Have you ever just stopped and wondered how those incredible immersive virtual worlds are actually made? It's not magic, but it is a pretty fascinating process of digital construction. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and break down exactly how it's all done, piece by digital piece.
Right, so how do you go from a completely blank digital canvas to a world that you can actually step into, look around in, and explore? Well, let's find out.
Just take a look at this. Every single thing you see here, the couch, the table, even the way the light from the lamp hits the floor, had to be meticulously created and placed. See, this isn't just a flat picture. It's a space with depth, with physics, with presence. This is what we're aiming for. Now, let's see how we actually get there.
Okay, so to understand how to build anything, you've got to look at the blueprint first, right? And for virtual reality, that means getting a handle on the system's architecture.
Here's the big picture. You've got the VR engine. That's the powerhouse doing all the heavy lifting with the graphics. You've got your I/O devices, so think your headset, your controllers. That's what connects you, the user, to the whole system. But the big question is, where does the world itself actually come from? Well, that happens right in here.
In the modeling and VR toolkits, you can think of this as the digital workshop. This is where the raw materials of a virtual world are forged. It's where all the creative and technical magic really happens, and that's exactly what we're going to focus on today.
You know, creating a virtual object isn't just one single action. It's a whole cycle, a step-by-step process. Think of it like the modeler's blueprint for bringing anything into existence, whether it's a simple coffee cup or a super complex character.
So this is the whole workflow, from start to finish. You start by mapping the controls, basically telling the object how to react when you push a button. Then you build its shape, its geometry. After that, you define its kinematics, which is just a fancy word for how it moves, how its joints bend. Then you apply physics so it knows about gravity, and you can even give it a little brain to control its own behavior. Finally, you have to organize and manage all those pieces. It's the complete recipe for bringing a virtual object to life.
But here's the key. These steps don't just happen in a vacuum. As you can see here, they all feed into this central hub, this command center that brings everything together. And this hub is what makes the whole process actually work. And that hub is called the VR authoring tool. This is so crucial. It is the digital workbench. It's the piece of software that brings the object's shape, its movement, its physics, and its intelligence all together to create one final, functional thing for the virtual world.
All right, let's zoom in on one of the most fundamental steps in that cycle, geometric modeling. How is the actual shape of an object defined? Well, it really boils down to two core building materials. You can think of them as digital bricks and digital clay.
So on one side, you have polygonal meshes. This is the absolute workhorse of VR and gaming. Why? Because it's super fast and efficient for computers to draw in real time. It's literally like building with countless tiny, flat bricks. Then on the other side, you've got splines. This is more like digital clay. You use it for sculpting those perfectly smooth, organic curves, which is essential for things like industrial design or high-end animation.
Let's get a little more technical with our digital bricks. A polygonal mesh is really just a collection of points in 3D space, and we call those vertices. You connect the vertices, you get edges. You connect the edges, you get faces. And those faces form the skin, the surface of the object.
And this is a brilliant illustration of why triangles are the go-to shape. See how these triangles share vertices? That means the computer only has to store the location of each point one time, even if that point is part of 6 different triangles. It's incredibly efficient, both for memory and for processing power, which is exactly what you need for a smooth, believable VR experience.
Okay, now for our digital clay. A spline isn't made of tiny flat surfaces at all. It's a smooth, continuous curve that's defined by a mathematical function. And the huge advantage here is that you can describe a really complex, smooth shape with way fewer control points than a super high-res mesh would need.
Yeah, just look at this. A surface this smooth, this fluid. It's almost impossible to create with just triangles. But splines? They are perfect for this stuff. They let artists sculpt these beautiful, organic shapes just by manipulating a few control points. And that gives them a level of precision that's absolutely essential for things like car design or character animation.
So we know how virtual objects are built, but where do we get the initial models from? Do we always have to start from scratch? Not at all.
There are actually several ways to bring 3D models into our virtual worlds.
There are basically 4 main paths you can take. You could program a model from scratch, but man, that is extremely tedious. More often, people will import existing models from computer-aided design or CAD files. You can also capture a real-world object using a 3D scanner, or you can just buy pre-made models from big online marketplaces.
And here are 2 fantastic examples of bringing real-world concepts into the digital realm. On the left, you've got an architectural plan from AutoCAD that's ready to be turned into a virtual building you can walk through. And on the right, the famous Venus de Milo statue has been perfectly recreated, polygon by polygon, using a 3D digitizer.
Now that second method, digitizing and scanning, is incredibly powerful. It's a bridge that lets us take all the complexity of the real world and transfer it directly into the virtual. So let's just focus on this amazing technology for a moment.
And scanners come in all shapes and sizes because they're made for different jobs. On the left, you see a handheld Polymus scanner, which is great for manually tracing smaller objects up close and getting all the details. On the right, that's the DeltaScare 3000, a tripod-mounted laser scanner designed to automatically capture entire rooms or even large outdoor areas.
This table really puts the differences into perspective, doesn't it? The Polymus is like a fine-tipped pen, a handheld tool for detailed close-up work. The DeltaSphere, on the other hand, is an absolute beast. It can scan a whole room with even higher precision, and it does it all automatically. And that speed difference, it's just staggering. 50 lines a second versus 25,000 samples a second. These are tools designed for completely different scales.
And this is what that power looks like in practice. This is a raw scan from the DeltaSphere. It captured this entire outdoor scene, the cars, the building, the ground, by firing a laser and measuring exactly how long it took for the light to bounce back, point by point, millions of times. This is literally a digital snapshot of reality.
So, the takeaway here is that we are getting remarkably good at this. We have the tools to build virtual worlds from pure imagination. And now, we have the technology to scan our real world and import it directly into a virtual one. And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to think about. What happens to our whole perception of reality when the virtual copy becomes truly indistinguishable from the original?